In the space of time between the start and finish of a race, every horse and every driver has their chance, but only one horse will cross the finish line in front. That horse, for the time being, has earned its keep. At tracks around the country, in the early morning light, countless hopefuls are put through their paces, rising 2- and 3-year-olds. Whatever their age or their ability, or what their future has in store for them, these horses all have one thing in common. They've all been trained to pace, it's in their breeding to pace, and they're all standard breds. This is Cash, and his future as a harness racer looks promising. But like racehorses, a large percentage of harness racers will never be champions. Then, trained with a gait that's totally unsuitable for equestrian or even pleasure riding, they're misfits in the outside world. They may have the most delightful temperament, they may have tried their hardest to please, but for most of them, the outlook is the same. Ken Halvorsen owns Cash, and for him, the biggest problem associated with training harness racers is what to do with them if and when they don't have what it takes.
A small proportion of them get to the racetrack, a small proportion of those win, and a smaller proportion of those are financially viable. It's like all money sports. It's very competitive.
Standard bred pacers, as distinct from trotters, are defined by their leg action. A pacer moves with the front and back legs on either side of their body going forward at the same time. It's this movement and the difficulty for trainers of placing horses that affects their future.
There's a traditional dislike of the standard-bred horse amongst equestrian people or saddle equestrian people. They're used to riding horses, Arabs, thoroughbreds or something. They'll get on a standard-bred and say, oh, it's uncomfortable, it feels like a camel. But then those same people wouldn't dare judge their own thoroughbreds or Arabs unless they've had 6 months, 2 years training.
Ask any trainer what they're like and they can't speak highly enough about their placid nature and their delightful temperament. They love their horses, but while Ken only has 2 horses to train, harness racing isn't his livelihood. Some have to train 30 or 40 a week, and finding homes is something they don't have the time or often the inclination to do.
Send a horse in the knackery might take you a couple of hours, phone call and it's done. Pick up a couple of $100. To find a horse a good home where he has got a future can take a couple of weeks, not a phone calls.
The most likely future for a standard bred rejected from the racing track is a truck journey to the knackery.
Weeks ago, and you inquired whether you were interested in standard bred or not.
If there was such a thing as a standard bred's knight in shining armour, Karen O'Neill must surely be it. She's made it her mission to find homes for as many of them as she can, and there's good reason for her motivation.
When I first bought Ichabod from the knackery as a 3-year-old, so many people wrote him off and said to me, oh, you'll never be able to do anything with him, send him back to the knackery, I wouldn't waste my time. It just made me more determined to pursue it and actually work with him and do something with him.
Karen is now the proud owner of 2 beautifully turned out standard breds, Ichabod and Algernon. Both have been successfully, and Karen says, easily retrained.
Like any horse coming off the track, you'll find that they all need a certain amount of retraining. Any racing horse will, but you'll find because of their enduring temperament and easygoing nature, and they're very obliging, that they pick up quite quickly and are quite happy to please.
Karen, along with a number of others, is trying to turn the tables on the breed by finding homes for the horses the industry rejects. The trainers ring Karen, she finds them homes, all because of Ichabod.
Simply because I was so inexperienced and dreadfully bad at riding that any horse that would put up with that and me gouging at him and doing the most horrible things, You know, any horse that can put up with that is worth the time and worth the effort, and you'll find that most of the breed are like that. That's part of their nature, that's part of what the breed is about, and why we place so many, and why trainers actually will give them up, which costs themselves money, give them up to homes, because the animals have such a wonderful nature and they don't have the heart to see them put down.
They may well be the Cinderella of the horse world. It's amazing what some faith and tender loving care can do. But in equestrian circles, they're still the sceptics. Many aren't convinced. To them, the standard bred will always be just another ugly sister.
They've seen so many race around the track, they've seen them hobbled up and pacing, so therefore they presume that standardbreds, even when they're unhobbled, are going to continue to pace for the rest of their life, which is simply not true. It's hard to convince people, or for them to visualise a skinny skeleton of a horse coming off a track and becoming a beautiful, rounded show hack like Ichabod. People so easily wrote him off simply because he didn't look the part. But I think you've got to look beneath that. If the horse has a temperament, you can do anything with a horse that has a wonderful temperament.
All they need is a chance to prove themselves off the track, and that's just what Karen gives them.